This is the Trade Partner Weekly Tactical Kickoff Meeting video. In this video, we're going to show you the purpose of the meeting, who should be there, and what topics you should cover. So you can play this either as a preparation for the meeting, or you can just show the video in front of everyone as a part of the meeting itself. I really hope that this will be helpful to you, so let's get started. So first and foremost, what is a Trade Partner Weekly Tactical? Why is it called that? What do we do there, and what is the purpose, like I said? So the Trade Partner Weekly Tactical is named that way because our subcontractors, we call them trade partners because they really are our partners. It's called Weekly Tactical because it happens every week and we make tactical decisions as a team to execute our short interval planning in the field. And so I borrowed these names from Patrick Lencioni's book, Death by Meeting, so that you had a reference. I highly recommend you read that book if you're going to run this meeting. And the purpose of this meeting is this: to look out ahead 6 weeks and find and remove roadblocks. Number 2, create a collaborative weekly work plan with your trade partners. And 3, make sure that we're removing roadblocks and doing any make-ready planning needed for the next week. So let's get right into it and talk about how to do that. So who should be in this meeting and what do we need? Well, the superintendent should be there, all of the trade foremen that supervise functional areas, the project engineer preferably, optionally the project manager can, and the field engineers if they're not too busy preparing for the work in the field and creating flow efficiency. What you need for this meeting is your macro level takt plan, your norm level takt plan, CPM schedule if it's applicable, your zone maps, your logistics maps, your roadblock tracking map, and any other visuals as a part of your Zoom meeting, which I do not recommend, or preferably in person on your conference room walls, anything that you need to see the information so that everybody can see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group together. I want to see some TV screens. I want to see some whiteboards. I want to see some schedules up on the wall. I want to see some zone maps with plexiglass on them. This meeting should enable everyone to touch and feel the plan and really make that plan together. So let's go through the agenda items specifically. Number 1, I always want you to start out with positive shout-outs. Even if no one else gives them to you, you shout some people out. You make sure that they feel connected. You make sure that they feel praised. Because everyone in there will be bettered if you give sincere and honest praise that will help them to know how relevant and important they are to the project. Number 2, you can do a lightning round like we've talked about in other videos, where you give them 30 to 60 seconds to give an update and to talk about the key things they want to discuss as a part of the meeting. Number 3, you will want to consider some team building exercises with your trade foreman. So just like the PM builds the team on site with the super, you superintendents, you're amazing. It's your job to really build that last planner team, that foreman team, so that everybody's on the same page and is a part of a cohesive culture and is a part of a cohesive team. You're obviously going to want to cover any safety topics because safety is our number 1 value and priority, but then we'll get into the other items that should be standard in every Trade Partner Weekly Tactical or Trade Partner meeting or sub-meeting or weekly work planning meeting. Whatever you call it, these are the typical things that you will want to cover. Number 1, you will want to make sure that you're doing look-ahead planning. So I like to do 6 weeks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This can be the current week that you're working in. I want to see, and especially by zone, but that is content that we'll cover in another video. I want to see exactly what is happening in each of these zones in the next 6 weeks. And I want to know for each of these activities if we are ready. So let me write this down. Do we have the materials? Do we have the people? Do we have the permissions? Do we have the information. And I could just keep going on, but what I want you to do with your trade partners is to ask for every single activity for the next 6 weeks. Do they have the materials? Do they have the people, the permissions, the info, the layout, the equipment, the tools? So I want you to do this, please, every meeting. Give them the look ahead filtered from the master schedule that originally came from the pull plan, a part of their plan. And I want you to give them at least 5 minutes to find a roadblock, meaning something that if we don't clear it out of the way, will stop work. A roadblock could be material that's not on time. It could be untrained labor or not enough labor. It could be a lack of permissions. It could be a missing RFI answer. Whatever it is, have every foreman in that 5 minutes go to their activities and find a possible problem. When that happens, it immediately goes on the roadblock trackers or your visual maps for action, so that you can remove that roadblock and clear the path of work and create flow on the project. So a make ready look ahead schedule is specifically to make work ready and to find and remove roadblocks that will always be a standard part of this meeting. And I recommend you do that now. Number 2, if you have done your make ready look ahead planning, you will want to look at 3 different periods of time. So you will want to look at your last week, or if you're in a takt system, hopefully, your last takt time, your current week, or like I said, if you're in takt, your current takt time, and then your next week or your next takt time. So if you had over here activities that needed to be done, and this week you have activities that are continuing, and then you have next week, which we'll talk about in a minute, I want you to start out by saying, hey, did we accomplish this or did we not, right? So as you go through last week, you should have on your daily huddles checked, yep, that went well. If that did not, do not check it, right? And then for the current week, yep, that went well, we're on track here, and I think we're on track here. The idea here is this, that if you did not check mark an activity, does that push the activities out? Does that impact? Is that a delay? Or do we have to come back and do it? So if you know what happened last week and this week, you can now identify what needs to be done next week. Now, when you go ahead and bring in the activities for next week's plan as a part of your weekly work plan, you will be able to bring that in according to your takt plan if you are using a takt system. So those are brought in, and then you review this with your trade partners and say, hey, can you make this commitment? Or they will come up and present and say, I can make this commitment. Let's say from your standard flowable plan, you have to move that activity forward or back. Then you have a conversation. Well, does this work with the successor activity? Does it stack with other activities? Do we have enough space? And you start to have a collaborative discussion as a part of your communication, and then every trade will commit and say, yes, I commit to that, I commit to that, I commit to that, I can do that, I have the resources for that, I am ready for that. And you create a weekly work plan that everyone can execute, and from which on a day-by-day basis, people can filter out their day plans, and they can know, hey, if I execute that task on time, I'm being a part of the team. So number 2, every time you have a strategic planning or procurement meeting, you will want to check in on your progress and create next week's weekly work plan. And number 3, in that meeting, I want you to focus on removing roadblocks. So when a roadblock gets written down in the very first place, I'm expecting you, and you can use red, but I'm going to showcase this in blue right now. You know, hey, for this room right here, let's say, for instance, that these zones over here represent a building. Maybe there are some office spaces in here, right? This is the work that you're doing. Maybe this is a corridor, right? If you have in your make ready look ahead planning a roadblock, an area that's not ready, you can highlight that room, make a little leader and say, hey, this is roadblock such and such, whatever number. Hey, you know, waiting on such and such, you know, RFI 241, right? this is a roadblock. You've written it down clearly. You've shown the trades. You can even hatch it to say, yeah, this is a problem. So every time a roadblock is written down, now the trades can visualize it. And as a third part of your meeting, like I said, you can go one by one through all of your maps through the whole project and say, hey, what's the status? Who's working on it? Is it going to be removed in enough time to enable work? So those key 3 things, you will do look-ahead planning, you will create a weekly work plan, and you will look at your roadblocks throughout the entire project or functional area to make sure that you're clearing the path for work. I'll close this out strong by saying I want you to keep your roadblocks up to date. I want your zone maps up to date. I want any problems always up to date on those maps. Please update your logistics plan. You're going to be having discussions about logistics and any other key consideration as a part of your planning so that your trades can not only see the plan, but know the plan and execute the plan. Highly recommend ending this meeting with a plus delta. What, as a part of this meeting, met the purpose? What could be improved? Remember, it'll take 3 weeks to 3 months to perfect this meeting, but you really want to make sure that people leave having prepared 6 weeks out, committed to a week out, meaning 2 Fridays from now if you're working within weeks, and that everyone can see and know the plan, not because it was shoved down their throat, but because they committed to it and now they're bought in and now they will execute it together as a team. So I want to give you all some encouragement. This can be tough. It can be tough, first and foremost, to have the look-ahead plan in and of itself. It can be tough to take the 5 minutes to find roadblocks. It can be tough to ask a team of people for something and then to hear crickets. It can be tough to ask people to commit to their weekly work plan. But if you pair it with tact, and if you do it the right way, and if you stick with it and really love and care for the people in the meeting, and you really cherish their opinions, this meeting can turn into a fun and wonderful experience. And what's really cool is when you start meeting the dates in the field, and then you can track your percent plan complete, where if out of 10 you completed 8, you've got an 80% score. Projects that hit above 80% historically are below budget and on time. If you're below 80%, historically you're above budget and not on time. So you can target an 80% score and really start winning as a team. So please leverage the Trade Partner Weekly Tactical. Please like and subscribe to this channel to get the other meetings, the afternoon foreman huddle, the worker huddle, and all of the other wonderful content. I will leave the outlines for you below in the description, and I want to say, on we go.